"Ah, that's Margot," Lily said with a dismissive wave. "She's been here for years. Keeps to herself. Honestly, I think she's a little off, but she gets the work done, so management doesn't bother her." I couldn't shake the unease I felt. The memory of Carolina's twisted smile, the flickering basement light, and the lifeless body of Jude replayed in my head like a broken record. I told myself it was just my nerves, that the strangeness of the past weeks was making me see shadows where there were none. Still, something about Margot felt wrong. That night, as I was leaving the office, I noticed her desk lamp still on. The building was silent except for the faint hum of the fluorescent lights. I peeked into her cubicle. Her notebook was open. Curiosity got the better of me. The pages were filled with incomprehensible scribbles, diagrams, and what looked like symbols from some ancient language. In the margins, she had drawn eyes, hundreds of them, staring in every direction. A chill crept up my spine as I flipped through the pages, each one more frantic and chaotic than the last. "What are you doing?" Her voice was sharp, cutting through the stillness like a blade. I turned to see Margot standing in the doorway, her hair obscuring most of her face, but her eyes glinting with an intensity that froze me. I was just... I didn't mean to pry," I stammered, stepping back. "You shouldn't have looked," she said flatly. Then, almost imperceptibly, she added, "They don't like it when you look." "Who doesn't like it?" I asked, my voice trembling. She didn't answer. Instead, she walked to her desk, closed the notebook, and tucked it under her arm. Without another word, she walked out of the office, leaving me alone with a growing sense of dread. The following weeks were strange. Margot's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She would mutter under her breath, her hands trembling as she wrote. At times, she'd glance around the room as if expecting to see someone or something that wasn't there. I wanted to ignore it, to focus on my work and keep my head down, but I couldn't. One evening, as I was locking up, I heard a soft, rhythmic tapping coming from the supply closet down the hall. I hesitated, every instinct telling me to leave, but curiosity, or maybe desperation, compelled me to investigate. The closet was dark, the faint smell of mildew hanging in the air. I switched on the light. At first, I saw nothing unusual. Then I noticed the back wall. It was covered in writing, the same symbols and eyes I had seen in Margot's notebook. The ink was fresh, still glistening under the light. "What the hell?" I whispered, stepping closer. "Do you see them?" Margot's voice came from behind me. I spun around to find her standing in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "See what?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "The Watchers," she said, her eyes wide. "They're everywhere. They're always watching." I backed away, my heart racing. "Margot, I think you need help. This isn't normal." She laughed, a hollow, joyless sound. "Normal? You think anything about this place is normal? They're here, right now, watching you, watching me. They never leave. Before I could respond, the lights flickered and went out, plunging us into darkness. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight. The beam illuminated Margot's face, her eyes wild and unblinking. "Don't move," she hissed. "They'll see you." I didn't know what she was talking about, but her fear was contagious. I stood frozen, the silence around us oppressive. Then, faintly, I heard it a whisper, soft and indistinct, like wind through leaves. It grew louder, more insistent, until it seemed to echo in my head. And then the eyes appeared. They weren't physical eyes, but glowing orbs suspended in the air, unblinking and all-consuming. They surrounded us, their light casting strange shadows on the walls. My breath caught in my throat as I realized they weren't just watching, they were closing in. Margot screamed, a high-pitched wail that shattered the stillness. She dropped to her knees, clutching her head. "Stop!" she cried. "Stop looking at me!" The whispers turned into a deafening roar, the air around us vibrating with an otherworldly energy. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to run, but my legs felt like lead. I could only watch as Margot collapsed to the floor, her body convulsing. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. The eyes vanished, the whispers ceased, and the lights flickered back on. Margot lay motionless on the floor, her face pale and her breathing shallow. I called an ambulance, unsure of what else to do. As the paramedics loaded her onto a stretcher, she grabbed my arm with surprising strength. Her eyes, filled with a mix of fear and urgency, locked onto mine. "They're not done with you," she whispered. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind outside my window set my nerves on edge. I tried to rationalize what had happened, to convince myself it was all in my head, but deep down, I knew better. Whatever those things were, they were real, and they weren't finished with me. The next day at work, Margot's desk was empty. Lily said she had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital. "Poor thing," she murmured. "Always seemed a bit unhinged." I wanted to believe that was the end of it, that whatever had haunted her wouldn't follow me. But as I sat at my desk, I felt it, the weight of unseen eyes. Watching, waiting. I don't know what they are or what they want, but one thing is certain, they're always there. Her name scrawled across the back, "Clara Jenkins," I murmured, my voice trembling. The photo felt oddly warm in my hands, as though it had been held moments before. The smiling woman in the picture looked nothing like the gaunt, despairing figure I had seen. But it was her. I was certain of it. The next day, I couldn't bring myself to go back to the office. I called in sick and spent hours staring at the photograph. Clara Jenkins. I searched her name online, digging through articles and employee directories. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon a company newsletter from 10 years ago. There she was, smiling and radiant, standing in front of the same office building where I now worked. The caption read, "Welcome, Clara Jenkins. our new financial analyst. I found more snippets, mentions of her successes, her creative ideas during team meetings, and even an employee spotlight interview. But after 2 years, she disappeared from the newsletters entirely. No farewell announcement, no LinkedIn updates, nothing. It was as if Clara Jenkins had been erased. By evening, my curiosity overpowered my fear. I decided to return to the office after hours. The building was eerily quiet, the only sound my footsteps echoing in the empty halls. When I reached her desk, the notebook was gone. In its place lay a single sheet of paper, blank except for a faint watermark that read, "They don't see." The phrase haunted me. What did it mean? Who were they? Why couldn't they see? I slipped the paper into my bag, resolving to uncover the truth. As I turned to leave, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. My breath quickened as a cold draft swept through the office. Then I heard it, a soft, mournful humming. It was faint at first, but it grew louder, echoing through the empty space. "Clara?" I called, my voice shaky. The humming stopped abruptly, replaced by an oppressive silence. Then a whisper, "Why did you come back?" I spun around, my eyes straining to adjust to the dim emergency lighting. She was there, standing at the edge of the room, her translucent form shimmering faintly. "I want to help you," I said, though my voice wavered. "Tell me what happened to you." Her hollow eyes met mine. "They ignored me," she said, her voice tinged with bitterness. "My ideas, my efforts, my pain. I faded and no one noticed." Her words sent a chill through me. "Faded? What do you mean?" She stepped closer, and for the first time, I noticed the faint outlines of office furniture visible through her form. "You think you're different?" she asked. "You think they see you? Watch." Listen, suddenly, the room shifted. The walls blurred, and I found myself standing in the middle of a bustling office. It was my office, but something was off. The air felt thick, heavy. People moved around me, but their faces were blank, featureless. They spoke in monotones, their words blending into an indistinct hum. I saw Clara at her desk, frantically typing, raising her hand during meetings, even approaching colleagues with a warm smile. But no one acknowledged her. It was as if she didn't exist. Her face grew more desperate with each passing moment, her smiles fading into frustration, then despair. "I tried," Clara said, her voice breaking. "I tried so hard, but they didn't see me. And now I'm nothing." The vision faded, and I was back in the darkened office. Clara stood before me, tears streaming down her ghostly face. "You can still leave," she whispered. "Before it's too late." The temperature dropped further, and the lights flickered violently. I felt a force pushing me toward the door, as if the building itself wanted me gone. But I couldn't leave. Not yet. "Clara," I said, planting my feet firmly. "What can I do? How can I help you move on?" She stared at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she said, "Remember me. Tell them I was here." Her form began to dissolve, her translucent body becoming wisps of light. As she faded, her voice echoed one last time. "Don't let them forget." The room fell silent, and the lights stabilized. I stood alone, the air still heavy with the weight of her presence. The next morning, I returned to the office with a sense of purpose. I brought the photograph of Clara to our team meeting, holding it up for everyone to see. "Does anyone remember Clara Jenkins?" I asked, my voice steady despite the curious stares from my colleagues. A few people exchanged glances, murmuring to one another. Finally, an older employee named Diane spoke up. "Clara. Yes, I remember her. She was so bright, so full of ideas. But she left years ago, didn't she?" "No," I said firmly. "She didn't leave. She was ignored, forgotten." The room fell silent. I took a deep breath and told them everything: the notebook, the phrase, "they don't see," the ghostly encounters. I expected skepticism, maybe even laughter. But as I spoke, I saw something unexpected: guilt. "She always wanted to contribute," Diane admitted, her voice tinged with regret. "But we were so busy, so focused on our own work. I guess we didn't make space for her." The weight of her words hung in the air. Slowly, the conversation shifted. People began sharing stories of times they had overlooked others, moments when they had been too absorbed in their own tasks to notice someone in need. By the end of the meeting, we made a pact to see each other, to listen, to ensure no one felt invisible. We created a Clara's Corner in the office, a space dedicated to collaboration and recognition, adorned with her photo and a plaque that read, "In memory of Clara Jenkins," a reminder to always see. Months passed, and the office transformed. The atmosphere became warmer, more inclusive. The Clara's Corner initiative spread to other departments, fostering a culture of connection and support. And though I never saw Clara again, I felt her presence in the small acts of kindness and acknowledgement that became part of our daily lives. One day, as I packed up to leave, I noticed something on my desk, a single sheet of paper with faint handwritten words. It read, "Thank you for seeing." I smiled, feeling a sense of peace. Clara had moved on, but her legacy remained a reminder that no one should ever feel invisible.